The story starts with a scene of destruction all over by the mighty red dragon, and facing off against it are the 6 heroes. The dragon told the heroes that a mere human could never defeat him. Then, we see Desir Herrman, our protagonist, explain that the shadow worlds were causing a huge disaster for humanity. These shadow worlds were covering our world in a mysterious black fog, and nobody knew what was inside it. All they knew was that no living thing could survive in that fog. Desir revealed that the only way to save the world was to conquer these shadow worlds before the fog consumed everything. He vowed to slay the dragon, named Boromir Napoleon, and put an end to this nightmare. Boromir tried to use his fiery dragon's breath on the heroes, but Desir disrupted his magic. Boromir attempted another magic attack, but Desir blocked it too. Desir had studied Boromir's magical patterns and sealed every draconian spell. The other heroes then joined the battle. The knight blocked Boromir's attacks, the warrior attacked him, and the paladin followed suit. The mage transferred all the remaining magic from the other heroes into the paladin, who landed a decisive blow on the dragon, bringing it down. Boromir couldn't believe he had been defeated by mere humans, and he died. The heroes were relieved that they had achieved their goal, and Desir believed they could finally escape this nightmarish world. The knight declared that the world was saved, but the warrior felt it was a bit late for clear messaging. The knight thought they should have been sent back to their world by now, but Desir suggested giving it a little more time. The mage agreed with Desir, noting that out of the 150 million people who fought against Boromir, only the 6 of them survived. Desir mentioned that this world had taken a lot from them, including irreplaceable friends and comrades. The priestess proposed that, since they had finally defeated Boromir, they should talk about something uplifting. The mage, however, insisted they couldn't ignore reality and needed to think about the future, especially since 99% of the mages had died. Desir asked them not to argue, as they had just finished saving the world. The priestess praised the knight for his excellent defense against Boromir's attacks, and the knight appreciated her kind words but says that Desir had contributed more to the victory this time, and the others agreed. The mage recognized that Desir was the reason they survived the battle, and was amazed by his ability to seal Boromir's draconian spells with his magical circle. He wondered why Desir wasn't better known despite his incredible strength. Desir explained that he was a commoner, which the mage found unfortunate, as he believed Desir could have received more support if he had been at the Mage Tower. Rael asked everyone what they planned to do once they returned to their world. The warrior shared that he wanted to visit the homes of his friends who had died and return their belongings as a way to remember their honorable sacrifice. The priestess said she would go back to the League of the Western Kingdoms and take care of the families of the victims. She planned to create a memorial and temple to honor the spirits of those who had lost their lives in this world. The mage expressed their concern about preventing the recurrence of another shadow world like this one. They believed that if a similar shadow world appeared again, it would spell the end for them. Rael then asked the paladin, Ys, what her plans were, but she remained silent. Turning to Desir, Rael wondered if he would return to Hebrion Academy. Desir recalled memories of a girl named Romantica, who had told him about her seaside villa and how beautiful the sunlight looked when it reflected off the sea. He remembered Romantica's final moments in this world and admitted that he hadn't made up his mind about his future. Suddenly, the dragon's corpse started behaving strangely. Raela was concerned and questioned if the battle wasn't over yet. The mage was sure that Boromir couldn't still be alive, but he suddenly recalled something he had read about dragon hearts. He explained that dragon hearts not only pumped blood but also stored and circulated vast amounts of mana. When the dragon's blood stopped flowing, the stored mana had nowhere to go and caused an explosion. Rael scolded the mage for not realizing this early, but the mage pointed out that this was the first time humans had defeated a dragon. The heroes braced themselves for the impending explosion, realizing that even in their best condition, they might not survive such a powerful blast. Desir attempted to use his magic to disrupt the mana explosion, but it proved ineffective against such a massive amount of magic power. The mage accepted that they might not make it through this, and the other heroes expressed their regret. Desir wondered if this was truly the end for them. The scene changes, and Desir opens his eyes and finds himself in a familiar place, but he's puzzled about how he got there. He notices that he looks younger than he did a moment ago. Then, he hears an announcement and becomes curious. A professor steps onto the stage and welcomes all the new students to Hebrion Academy. Some of the girls in the audience find the professor really beautiful, but she quickly hushes their chit-chat. Desir recognizes her as Professor Bridget. She mentions that not everyone who came there will be able to enroll in the academy, and that they will have to take a test. Only the top 600 students will be allowed to enroll, and the test involves clearing a shadow world. Desir is surprised by this and wonders how it's even possible. Professor Bridget reassures the students that the shadow world for the test is artificial, and created just for this purpose. She mentions that they'll hear more about it from their senior students who will support them through the process. The entrance exam for the year 3613 begins, and all the students leave the stage. Desir goes to a corner, confused about why he's at the entrance ceremony of Hebrion Academy. He remembers that the battle against Boromir Napolitan started in the year 3613, and they fought for 10 years in a dungeon, causing a lot of destruction. He questions if their fight had any meaning and why they had to go through all that hardship. The scene then shifts to Desir in the Academy's garden, and he feels like it's too real to be a dream. A girl named Ladoria Dorich comes looking for Desir, and wonders why he wasn't at their designated meeting spot. Desir apologizes, and Ladoria introduces herself as a second-year student and Desir's mentor. Desir greets Ladoria, and remembers that she's a talented mage who excels in fire magic and ranked first in the academy. Seeing Desir's expression, Ladoria senses that something's wrong. Desir explains that he's just nervous, and Ladoria reassures him, saying that it's just a shadow world created for the test to assess their combat ability. She learns that Desir is a commoner. Desir states that should not be a problem for his enrollment. Ladoria mentions that Desir being a commoner won't be a problem, but even if he passes the test, he'll only end up in the beta class. Desir explains that the school has a discriminatory practice. It puts nobles in the alpha class and commoners in the beta class, making it difficult for commoners to receive a proper education, even if they have talent. This practice has hindered many talented mages. Ladoria then leads Desir into the academy building, and Desir doesn't seem surprised by the magnificent structure. This makes Ladoria suspicious. Desir mentions that he has seen a similar building before, but Ladoria doesn't believe him because there's no facility as grand as this one. Ladoria guides Desir to the test venue as they are running late. On the way, they encounter a water mage named Elheim. Desir recalls that Ladoria and Elheim don't get along well. Elheim comments on Ladoria taking a while to get there, and makes a remark about her height. Ladoria counters that Elheim is still as crude as ever. Elheim expectedly insults Ladoria, calling her a despicable fire mage, but Ladoria reminds him that he recently lost to her in a battle. They argue a bit more before Elheim changes the subject. Elheim wonders if Ladoria is Desir's mentor, and asks Desir for his name. When Desir reveals he's a commoner, Elheim can't believe it and says it's what he expected from Ladoria. He dismisses Desir's chances in the test, saying it won't even be a competition. Ladoria is puzzled by Elheim's words, and he leaves, telling Ladoria to look forward to the test. Before he goes, he advises Desir to give up on the test since even if he passes, he'll end up in the beta class. Desir suggests they head to the testing site, noticing that Ladoria is upset. She tells him that he must pass the test while they head there. Desir realizes that this really is the past. After entering the testing grounds, he desperately looks for someone. Suddenly a girl calls him out and tells Desir to stop looking around and settle down because it's embarrassing. It turned out she is Romantica. Desir then recalls his memories of Romantica and the tragic scene of her death. The story continues with Desir expressing his relief at finding Romantica safe. She's curious about how he knows her name and wonders if they've met before. Desir explains that he saw her name on a board, and Romantica realizes they're in the same testing group. She wishes him luck and then leaves. Desir reflects on the fact that he does know Romantica and remembers the pain he felt when he lost her. He's determined not to let her go through such a difficult experience again. Afterward, Ladoria informs Desir that he's in Group D for the test. She explains that the test is a race in the Aran Plains, which is a beginner level of the Shadow World. She reassures him that it's not a dangerous place, even though it's called a Shadow World. The Shadow Worlds used at Hebrion Academy are created specifically for testing, and have safety measures in place. Even if someone gets severely injured, they can be evacuated immediately. Elheim then informs Desir that this test allows the use of magic and attacks against other participants. He firmly believes it's impossible for Desir to pass the test. Loria chimes in, saying they won't know the outcome until they try, but Elheim is already convinced of the result. He introduces his ment, Aziz Kingscrown, describing her as a magic knight who excels in ice magic. She's also a high circle mage and can wield vision magic, which is nearly impossible to counter. Desir recognizes her abilities well and mentions that she's even better with a sword than most. Aziz is expected to become a dependable teammate in the future, despite her limited conversation. Ladoria checks out Aziz's records, prompting Elen to wonder if Ladoria's enthusiasm has diminished. Ladoria clarifies that Elheim was simply fortunate in his ment assignment, which doesn't necessarily reflect his skills. Elheim, on the other hand, believes it does reflect his personal qualities and asserts that a commoner like Aziz is a perfect fit for someone like him. He then departs. Loria encourages Desir, acknowledging that his chances aren't great against a magic knight, but she advises him not to give up. Desir expresses his gratitude to Ladoria for the encouragement. The participants of Group D are summoned for the test. They use a warp gate to enter the Shadow World. In this world, their goal is to reach the finish line, and only the top 3 participants will pass the test. They are allowed to use magical attacks, interference, and various methods, but if they receive fatal damage, they will be disqualified. The participants line up at the starting point. Desir notices that Aziz survived until the end, just like he did, and he wonders if she also retained her past memories when coming to this world. He's unsure about what's going on in her mind. Then, Aziz calls Desir by his name, surprising him. Aziz explains that she checked the roster before the match and mentions that Desir is at the lowest circle with below-average physical ability. Even if he continues training, she believes he doesn't have much of a future. Desir concedes that she's right, and he thinks that Aziz may not have her past memories. Aziz assures Desir that he doesn't need to be wary of her, as she has no interest in attacking the weak. Desir thanks her for the reassurance. The race begins after a countdown, and Aziz takes off at full speed. 3 other contestants follow closely behind her. Romantica and Desir also start running. Along the way, Romantica notices a small animal and finds it cute. Desir is surprised that Romantica still likes such things, and Romantica questions what he means by still. She suggests that Desir doesn't know much about her, and wonders if he's trying to flirt with her. She advises him to focus on the race, and Desir agrees, realizing that they could both be disqualified at this rate. Romantica asks Desir to stop acting so familiar with her, and Desir apologizes while smiling. Romantica is bothered by the expression on Desir's face, but he can't help it because he really missed her. Suddenly, Desir notices something up ahead and pushes Romantica to protect her from an incoming attack. It turns out the attack was launched by another participant in the race. Romantica uses her Wind Strike spell to counter the attack. The other participant uses a Fire Rod spell to defend themselves, and the 2 spells collide. Romantica's spell manages to take out the other participant by causing fatal damage, leading to their disqualification from the test. The announcement of the disqualification reaches the other participants. Romantica acknowledges that she owes Desir for looking out for her, but she believes she settled the score with her successful attack. Desir suggests they catch up because the other participants are quite ahead of them. Romantica had planned to use a specific spell later, but she decides to use it now. She casts a spell called Arrow Sweep in the direction of the remaining participants. Meanwhile, the teachers overseeing the test find out that Groups A and C have finished their test. Groups D and F are the ones currently being tested. They believe everything is going smoothly, and note that the candidates this year are excellent. One of the teachers mentions the presence of a magic knight among the candidates, and another teacher agrees, emphasizing that this is how nobles should be. The teachers also mention that they've heard there is a commoner in Group D and express pity for the individual for being in the same group as a magic knight. The scene shifts to one of the remaining participants, who thinks that while Aziz is fast, he should be able to pass if he maintains his current pace. Suddenly, a gust of wind sweeps over the participants in the front. One of them feels that the wind isn't strong enough to blow him away, so he stands his ground. He notices that Aziz is cutting a path through the wind and still moving forward. However, the unnamed participants behind them get hit by an uprooted tree and are disqualified for taking too much damage. Romantica then tells Desir that it's his turn now and advises him to drop out. She mentions that the expression on Desir's face irritates her. Desir is confused about her request, and Romantica explains that she's trying to talk him out of continuing before he gets hurt. She tells Desir to drop out right now if he understands. However, Desir refuses to drop out, surprising Romantica. She wonders if Desir is being foolish. Desir maintains his smile, but Romantica asks him to stop. She then casts numerous magic circles in an attempt to attack Desir. She warns him that she's going to hurt him so badly that he might die, but reassures him that they can't die in this place. Romantica decides to use the Wind Strike spell on Desir, and attempts to leave, thinking the fight is over. But to her surprise, Desir is unharmed and even impressed that Romantica can cast so many spells at the same time. Desir explains that Romantica prioritizes speed, so her control over the spells is weak, and making slight adjustments to the trajectory is enough to avoid her attacks. Romantica can't believe it and insists that there's no way Desir can beat her. She tries to attack again, this time using the Venom Wind spell, but Desir manages to divert her attack once more. Romantica notices that Desir is using an inversing spell, and she's baffled because typically, someone needs to be at a much higher circle than their opponent to invert their spell. This should be impossible since Desir is at the lowest circle. She attempts to attack him again, but Desir cancels her spell once more. This time, Romantica realizes that Desir truly did invert her spell, and she wonders if it means his skills are far superior to hers. Desir suggests they finish the fight since he has other opponents to defeat and can't stay here for too long. Romantica casts multiple spells at once, thinking Desir can't invert all of them simultaneously. However, Desir starts inverting all of Romantica's spells and believes she is strong but not strong enough. He fears that the same future will repeat itself. He acknowledges that Romantica can become even stronger, but to achieve that, he needs to defeat her now. Desir successfully inverts all of Romantica's spells and reveals 3 key points Romantica overlooked. First, he can do more than just inversing spells. Second, he has been fighting others all along. Third, the test isn't solely about magic skills, but also about reaching the goal. In this test, they won't die even if they receive fatal damage, allowing him to use unconventional strategies. Desir then uses a grease spell on himself to remove friction, and launches a fireball spell to propel himself toward the finish line. He catches up to Aziz near the finish line, surprising everyone. Aziz realizes that Desir is about to overtake her in the race, so she decides to stop and confront him. She acknowledges that her earlier statement about Desir being weak was incorrect, especially since he managed to defeat Romantica. Aziz then casts a spell called Magic Arrows of Prey to attack Desir, but he begins to invert her spells after analyzing them. Aziz is determined not to give Desir a chance to invert all her spells. She uses another spell to attack him swiftly, but Desir adjusts the spell's trajectory to avoid fatal damage. Aziz decided it was time to finish the race with a powerful attack. Desir anticipated her move and counterattacked. Aziz's attack managed to hit Desir, but he skillfully changed its path. Desir employed his grease spell once more and propelled himself with a fireball. With his quick thinking and adaptability, Desir raced to the finish line and claimed the top spot in the test. Aziz and Romantica completed the race shortly after him. Desir believes that both Aziz and Romantica need to become stronger to overcome the tragedies they've faced. The scene then shifts to a student named Donetta Haddon, who finishes first in the Group F qualifiers and notices Romantica in the Group D qualifiers, prompting a smile from him. The story continues with the teacher explaining how they've sorted new students into classes based on their test results, magical abilities, and family histories. They notice that there are no commoners in the top class called the Alpha class. Other teachers reveal that the Alpha class is exclusively for nurturing the chosen mages, and commoners aren't accepted because they lack education. The commoners should just be happy to be in the academy, say the teachers. The headmaster receives a recommendation for a commoner, Desir Herrman, to be placed in the Alpha class from Professor Bridget. Students check their class placements, and the noble students are pleased to find themselves in the Alpha class, thinking it's only natural. However, Desir is placed in the Beta class, which worries him. He is more concerned about Romantica, who is also in the Beta class. Romantica finds the Beta class's classrooms run down and old, questioning when the place was built. The teacher explains that mages are ranked in circles, from 1 to 7, with 1 being the lowest and 7 the highest. To be in the Alpha class, students must be at least in the 2nd circle, but everyone in the Beta class is only at circle 1. Romantica wonders if her circle is actually 2. The teacher acknowledges that their skills won't be enough for the real Shadow Worlds, but wishes them luck. Romantica feels bad about being in the Beta class and wonders why she has to share a class with Desir, who defeated a magic knight. Desir remembers a meeting with Professor Bridget after the class placements. She was glad he remembered her and wished he could be in the Alpha class, but other professors strongly opposed it. Desir thinks the professors have created a divide between commoners and nobility, but believes there's untapped potential among the commoners and vows to awaken their talents. The scene shifts to Romantica, who's feeling down about being placed in the Beta class. A guy named Donetta Haddon approaches her and asks if she's Baron Eru's daughter. Romantica confirms, and she's curious about who he is. Donetta introduces himself as a new student in the Alpha class. He explains that he's looking for party members and mentions the Blue Moon, a top party in the academy made up of Alpha class students. Donetta thinks Romantica would be a great addition and offers to recommend her to the party. In return, he asks her out on a date. Romantica is embarrassed and mentions they just met that day. Donetta insists, saying it was love at first sight, and he can't believe a noble like her is in the Beta class. Romantica asks for some time to think about it, and Donetta agrees. He gives her a chewin, a gift from his hometown, with a necklace inside. Romantica can't accept it but thanks him. Then, Desir approaches Romantica from behind, startling her. She asks him what he wants. Desir makes a similar proposal as Donetta, but Romantica rejects him, stating she'd rather join the Academy's best party than one created by a new student. Desir believes this was a big mistake on Romantica's part, Frustrated, Romantica tells him to go away. Desire hands her a letter and asks her to read it in private, whispering that she should get rid of it after reading. He leaves, saying he'll wait for her answer. Romantica reads the letter and becomes angry. Desire believes that the contents of the letter must have upset her. He then spots a blue-haired student and thinks he's finally found him. The scene shifts to Desire watching a student named Pram Schneider in the training grounds. Desire recognizes Pram as one of the fastest swordsmen he met in his past life. He believes that if Pram was that strong without proper training, he can become even stronger this time. Romantica joins them, curious about how Desire found out. Desire mentions that practice is starting, and Romantica spots Pram, thinking he's cute and wondering how someone so cute can exist. Pram selects a great sword for practice, and Desire wonders about his choice. Romantica questions if he can handle such a large weapon. In Pram's practice match against a noble from the Alpha class, he swings his sword and keeps pushing the noble back with his powerful blows. Romantica is impressed by Pram's strength. However, Desire notes that Pram is swinging his sword blindly, and this makes the noble angry. The noble attacks Pram relentlessly, but Pram falls for a feint and gets disarmed, leading to his surrender. Romantica wonders why Pram chose a great sword and thinks it didn't work out for him. The noble continues to physically assault Pram. Desire intervenes to protect Pram, stating that the match is already over. The noble tells Desire to stay out of it, which makes Desire wonder if the noble is jealous of someone more talented. This angers the noble, and he tries to hit Desire with the sword, but it breaks. Pram notices this, and Desire tells the noble to be content with winning the match. The noble gets scared and leaves, warning Desire that he won't forget this. The scene shifts to Pram treating Desire's injured hand. Desire mentions he's fine because he used magic to block the strike. Romantica remarks on Desire's recklessness. Pram finishes bandaging Desire's arm and apologizes for involving him in the situation. Desire reassures Pram that it was his choice and asks him not to blame himself. Pram is concerned that Desire made an enemy from the Alpha class because of him. Romantica, while crying, finds Pram really cute. Desire insists that he's genuinely okay, and Pram realizes he hasn't introduced himself. He does so, and Desire and Romantica introduce themselves as well. Pram asks Desire to use his first name, making Pram blush. Desire is happy to see Pram's happiness, even if he's unsure why Pram is blushing. The scene shifts to Pram thanking Desire once again, telling him that he can ask for help whenever he needs it. Desire agrees and says he'll take Pram up on that offer someday. Pram then leaves. Desire starts wondering about what Romantica wanted to talk to him about, and the scene cuts to them talking in a secluded spot. Romantica asks Desire if he's told anyone about the contents of the letter. Desire says he hasn't, but the professors at the academy are already aware of it. This is the reason she was placed in the beta class, even though she's a noble with incredible magical skills. Desire explains that in Pram's kingdom, located several kilometers away, there was a commoner merchant who became wealthy through trade. This merchant purchased a title from a poor noble and adopted the Aru surname. This happened when Romantica was just 4 years old. Desire emphasizes that one can't change their commoner background even if they buy a noble title, which is what the professors at the academy believe. Romantica acknowledges that she's aware of this, and Desire advises her to decline Donetta's offer. He points out that the Blue Moon Party is open only to nobles. Romantica is confident that Donetta will protect her, but Desire reminds her that Donetta referred to commoners as trash. He's certain that Romantica can imagine what might happen if he discovers the truth. Desire then asks Romantica if she'd like to join his party. Romantica wonders if Desire will reveal her commoner background if she refuses to join. Desire reassures her that he would never do that. He mentions that he would just start a party with Pram alone. Romantica contemplates forming a party with Pram and thinks it wouldn't be fair for Desire to keep Pram all to himself. She expresses her suspicion toward Desire, noting his constant smiling and extensive knowledge about her family. Romantica brings up his victory over a magic knight and calls his inversing spell unfair. Desire asks her for her answer. Romantica decides to join his party, stating that she'll uncover his secret no matter what. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to subscribe our channel for more anime recap.